Hi, I'm Bethany Salisbury, the Programs Coordinator at the McColl Center, and I want to thank you for joining us for the second installment of our printmaking process series, featuring the artists from our current exhibition, Dwell, Pause for Thought. I'm going to leave things with Myles Calvert, our host here, another printmaker, and he's going to introduce you to Jenny and Adriana and talk a little bit about their work and processes. Thank you, Myles.
Thanks, Bethany. Thanks, McColl, for hosting these 4 talks. This is the second out of 4 talks that we had planned based on the exhibition, which is currently on display at the McColl Center, Dwell, Pause for Thought, investigating the process of printmaking. Joining me, Jenny Robinson, hello, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Ariadna Abadal from Barcelona in Spain.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me, you two. Game plan for our talk. I'm going to do a quick little intro for one of you, and then we'll do a little talk, hear about your practice, what you're currently working on, what you're all about. And then I'll do the same thing for the second artist that we have. And then we'll have lots of time for some chit chats. And if you haven't seen the first talk, you'll kind of realize that artists were chosen for this exhibition who are prime examples of the very specific printmaking process that they work in. So there are 8 artists altogether, and we've got 4 talks scheduled, 2 artists per talk. So these 2 artists have been paired together for very logical reasons, which you'll figure out in a few minutes. Let's start with Ariadna. Hello.
Hello.
I know you already, so this makes life so easy for me. But you have an education and a background in biology, and then you've been paired with the family business, which is printmaking and running an exceptional residency called Art Print Residence, which is just outside of Barcelona in Spain. I've had the lucky privilege of going there 3 times. I overlapped with Jenny for at least 3 weeks, I believe, if not more, during that time. And the 3rd time I went, I took students, and it was a phenomenal experience for both, artists solo and for learning experiences. You've recently had a ton of success with multiple projects. I've been creeping your Instagram and your website, of course, to include the International Biennial in Douro, Portugal. What else? The 43rd Mini Print International, and I'm gonna not say this right. Say it for me. Cadaqués?
Cadaqués.
Cadaqués. And then many, many more. But you're typically focusing on mokuhanga and mokulito, sometimes some dry point techniques, but you teach them all. So you're working with artists on a daily basis, doing things like large-scale copper plate etchings and shin collé and photopolymer plates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'd love to hear about your practice. We'd love to hear about what you're currently working on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Myles. Thank you for your introduction. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Well, yes, I am a printmaker, and I am also a biologist. And I used to combine these 2 things in my work. I like to combine my inspiration is always the sea and marine animals. And well, this is an example of my work. I like to work with Japanese papers. This is printed on Gampi. Jenny was who offered me a piece of paper to try this. And well, it's a big scale. It's not large, very large print, but it's a big. It's difficult to work with Japanese paper, but it's really beautiful, and I like the layers and the transparency that it gives. Well, if you pass the next slide. Okay, this is the Art Print Residence. It's a printmaking residency that it's near Barcelona in Arenys. And it was founded by my family. My parents are running this business since more than 30 years ago. They are Jordi Rosés and Claudia Lloret, and I learned from them. We started our print residence more than 10 years ago. But they were working in this field for many, many years, since the 80s. So since I was a child, I have been surrounded by ink, tarlatans, and blankets. So my first print was when I was 5 or 6 years old. So the printmaking has been in my life everyone for many, many years. If you pass this, well, these are the pictures of the residency. We have lots of inks, as you can see in the pictures. We have the whole palette from Charbonnel. We have all the colors from Charbonnel for intaglio. We have offset inks for relief, for monoprinting, for litho. So, well, many people say that our print residence is the paradise for the printmakers because we have lots of materials and lots of stuff. And we have different areas in the studio, and each area is specifically designed for the printmaker. When Jordi is always building and constructing, as you know, the many things very useful for the artists. And we have 6 intaglio presses. You cannot see all the things that we have in the studio in these 2 pictures, but one large press is for prints, large prints. For the maximum size of the prints are 2 meters or 2 meters 40 by 120, more or less. And we have other presses. We have the huge press is electric, so you don't have to turn the wheel, but the other presses are manual. So we can accommodate different projects at the same time. We have different artists working in the studio, and we receive artists from all over the world. So if you want to follow what's the next slide? Okay, these are you, Jenny and Myles. We have had you in the studio for several times, and this is common because many people, when once come, after they want to come back and work again in our print residence because we have, it's a beautiful place to work, and we have all the facilities for different techniques. So in the studio, you can work on copper. We mainly have facilities for copper, for intaglio, but we also work with aluminum or wood cut, or you can do a project about artist books or photo-etching. So we have we can accommodate different projects and different techniques. If you follow the next, sorry. Well, I like to learn many techniques as possible because printmaking is very rich and open, and there are many different techniques that you can learn. So I think that each technique, it has these different qualities, and you can get different results. So sometimes you can combine different techniques, and this is very important, no? That you can try different things, and you can find the best technique for you. And I like to work on mokulito. This is it's on wood. It's a lithography, a Japanese lithography on wood. It's an alternative technique, and I like to work with this because wood is an organic material, and I like to work with natural materials and natural pigments also. So if you pass the following slide. For me, it's very important that mokulito is a non-toxic technique. It's based on the principles of lithography, but it's an alternative, and it's more easy or more direct than lithography, which requires a lot of solvents, chemicals, and a lot of steps, and it's more complicated. But in our studio, we don't use chemicals inside the studio, and this is well, what we try, no, to work with less toxic techniques. Well, any questions so far?
Not so
No?
far. I've got lots for later on, though.
Me too.
Another thing that, well, it's a characteristic from this technique, the mokulito, is that you can work on large scale because you don't have to work on the stones. Stones, well, are not being manufactured anymore, so it's difficult to find stones and they are very heavy. And with this technique, the wood is less heavy, so it's good for large format, and it's a very gestual technique, so you can do small marks or big strokes. So this is some characteristics of this technique that I like a lot. And if you show the next, well, this is a project on dry point. This is another project where I like to show my work surrounded by nature. Maybe because I am a biologist, that I think that it's where it belongs. No, so my inspiration comes from the nature, and I return my work to the nature sometimes. And the next slide, this is another project that I have with an artist, Teófilo Androne, that where the matrix, we use the matrix for printing, and after printing, we transform the matrix into surfboards. So the matrix are beautiful by itself. They are made of wood, and I think it's a good substitute of the plastic surfboards, and it's more ecological. And I have been told that you cannot use the matrix when you print mokulito. Once it's printed, you cannot use it anymore. But I think that it's a way to enlarge the life of the matrix as an object or something beautiful, decorative, or something that you can use in the sea for surfing. So you can see the print and the object. As
Lovely.
Jamal is showing the matrix and the prints, no? Sometimes the matrix are beautiful, like the prints.
So what is the reason for why couldn't they be used after they've been printed?
Well, mokulito, it's an organic process, no? And the wood, once it gets old and dry, you cannot print this anymore. It's not like a copper plate that you can keep it for many years, and after one day you can take it and print it. So the wood, once you start the process, you have to print and finish the printing process the same day. So that's why it's very ephemeral, but I like it a lot. But after you have the matrix, and that's all. You have the prints, you have the matrix. Well,
That's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress.
as I see, yes. As I told you, each technique has different qualities, so you have to take advantage of its technique, no?
I'm
Its
completely
quality.
going to hold my questions because I've got so many already. But I want to keep with our system because it worked so well last time. Ariadna, thank you very much. And we could always flip back to these slides if you want to talk about something individually. Absolutely. Hey, Jenny.
Hello, Myles.
Hi. Hello, all the way from Australia. I love technology.
Sydney, Australia. Yeah.
Isn't it just crazy? And I'll let you elaborate as to how the heck you got there. But if we work backwards, Sydney, Australia, a brief stint in Slovenia, roughly 20 years in San Francisco via the UK. So I'll let you figure that out later on. So like I said before, Jenny and I overlapped a little bit. We met, the first time we met was at Alfred University while I was teaching there in New York. And Jenny was flown in as a visiting artist for a printmaking kind of retrospective exhibition that was happening there.
That was such a great residency.
That was such a good time for students, for faculty, for everybody. It was great.
Yeah.
And then we overlapped for, I want to say, roughly 3 weeks at our print residence, just both doing our own thing. And then just really enjoying the space and the time together.
Yeah, that's great.
Jenny, as you know, is like an international, multiple permanent collection kind of artist. One of your most notable awards is the Mario Avadi Award, which I'm hoping you could flesh out in a second for us a little bit as well, based in Paris, which I know was a large solo exhibition. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the world's biggest printmaking prize?
Well, it seems to be. I mean, Australia actually has some quite big financial prizes, but I feel like it's one of the top ones because of not only the money that they give you, which is $40,000 US, but they also give you an exhibition, which I think is more important actually in this
absolutely.
In this incredible venue at the Institut de France, which is it's a 500-year-old building opposite the Louvre. And it's just incredible. They've just done up the gallery, and it's a stunning gallery. It's right on the Seine there. I mean, it's such an opportunity. So yeah, I go into that a bit when I talk to Miranda of Hello Print Friend recently. So that's
well, I don't want to cut your accolades short because, dare I say, among fellowships in Italy, Vermont, Nova Scotia, in Canada, and specific prizes for paper in particular, right? And I think that's quite important as printmakers to really flesh out. But we would love to hear about maybe these two prints in the exhibition currently, and then I'll flip through slides as you see fit.
Okay, so this series actually ties in with Art Print Residence because when we moved to Slovenia in 2000, I think the end of 2018, November, I couldn't actually find anywhere to print there, even though it was supposed to be, print center. And I'd already taught at Art Print Residence, hadn't I, Ariadna? I'd done a dry point on cardboard workshop a couple of times maybe. And so I knew about their facilities and I knew about their presses and everything. So because I couldn't print where I was in Slovenia, I used to fly to Barcelona, so terrible. And I used to stay there for a couple of weeks and print there. And then that's also when you were there. And I probably did that 3 or 4 times before the pandemic came, which put a stop to it. But it was such an opportunity to work on a big press. So when I was in Slovenia, because I didn't have a press to work on, I did a lot of drawings of what was around me. My work's always been influenced completely by where I live, what I see, my environment. And so I was just drawing a lot because I hadn't drawn for a long time and I'd been super busy before I left for a couple of years. And it was a real opportunity for me to get back to drawing. So I made a lot of more abstracted images from buildings that were going on around. And I made a series of 6 large prints. I think these are 100 by 160. No, 60 inches by 40. Sorry, I'm trying to learn metric. So I printed most of those at Art Print Residence. And this one on the right, the blue and white one, this one I did a series of just one of these in the edition. And it's basically, it's the idea that that a building or any kind of structure or anything in the man-made world starts as a drawing on paper. Because, obviously we're all in the printmaking world, we're very obsessed with paper and drawing and marks on paper. And so the idea with this set was that the blueprint, which is printed on mulberry paper, which is slightly thicker than Gampi, that represents the original drawing, the architect's blueprint, if you like, the concept of a space that we move around in. And then the white print on Gampi, which lays over the top, that is the remnants of the building after it's gone. Because my work has always been very concentrated on architecture, basically, lines, armatures. And I love the idea that you can take a building which seems to be so strong and indestructible. I mean, a lot of my work revolves around Hangar 1, which is a big airship hangar down in San Francisco. And it just looks, they recently took the skin off it and it looks like a huge dinosaur skeleton in the middle of Moffett Field, which is a NASA airfield. And it looks like it's been there forever. Looks like it's been there from dinosaur times, but it won't be there forever. It's like 100 years old, which is nothing. And probably in 50 years, it won't be there anymore. And I love the idea that you can take those structures which seem so impenetrable and print them on a a substrate like Gampi, which is like tissue paper, which is so fragile looking. But in fact, paper often lasts a lot longer than buildings do. You know, after the building is gone, the paper is still there. When I was in Paris this summer, like a couple of weeks ago, I went to the library at the Institut de France, because I'm allowed to pop in whenever I like now because I won the prize. And they showed me, I went initially to see the Piranesi books that they've got. And then they showed me, we got so excited about what we were seeing. We saw Robert Hooke's books about microphilia, which is, he was one of the first people who developed the microscope. So we saw his book, which was incredible. And then they took out this book that was from 1460 about herbology made by monks. I mean, these books are ancient, and everything that they depict is, you know, it's not all there still. So that's what my work is really about. So this series, this was, during lockdown, when I was drawing a lot in Slovenia, I did a lot of drawings about these conservatories and palm houses that you have around Europe, which protect the species that they have in them. It's so it really, you know, during the pandemic, we were all locked inside. We were all trying to protect ourselves from the dangers outside. And so this whole series came about from doing drawings of the palm houses, and then using the concept that they're like a cage, but they're also a protective skin around us. And inside you have the living, breathing organisms, which we kind of felt like during the pandemic. So Gampi works really well for this series because it's sort of very delicate and flows. This is one of the larger prints I made. This is 60 by 80 inches of an abstracted section of the Hangar 1 I was talking about in Moffat Fields. And again, I printed it on Gampi to cause that juxtaposition between the strength of the building and the strength of the paper, and you know, which is stronger, the paper or the building? And it's the paper, of course.
But
and the one
wonderful. Sorry, Jenny. But isn't it wonderful how well Gampi also travels?
That's the other thing. When you're traveling around a lot, which I have done over the last 5 years, you can just roll it up very thin, and lots of it. When I did my show in Paris, I had a lot of big pieces in that show, and basically I just rolled them all up and put them in I've got a golf bag and a ski bag. I bought a ski bag, and I just rolled them all up and brought them on the plane with me, all rolled up. And then we just unrolled them, and nothing was framed. It was all just hanging off the walls, a bit like you can see at the background there. So it's an incredible paper. And I know when I gave Ariadna a piece when I was in Barcelona, I think it really sort of, when I first started working on Gampi, it just expanded my practice. It completely changed my practice after I learned how to handle and work on Gampi. And I feel, Ariadna, I feel like that's what's happened with your work too, because you use those beautiful papers that move, and because of your subject matter, it sort of, you know, I think materials are so important that they have to be part of the concept of the piece. You know, there's no point in just using it to do a picture of a cat. I mean, what does it mean? But if you're working with images from the natural world, especially sea creatures, that, you know, you've got that flow and movement. I use it in a different way. I'm more interested in the juxtaposition between strength and what appears to be strong, what appears to be fragile. But it works for all different kinds of imagery. It's an incredible paper. And this one on the right is the print that I made when I was at Alfred. It's 9 photopolymer plates made from a drawing that I did specifically for this residency. And I wanted to see if you could reproduce sort of a watercolor effect in photopolymer plate. So I printed all 9 of them. And then again, they were on Gampi, so I seamed them together and backed them. So that was the first time.
Achieve the results you wanted?
Oh yeah, I actually love that print because it's you know, I did a drawing that was sort of probably that size, and then we blew it up, we scanned it, And then they made these plates for me, it was lovely to see it become what it was supposed to become. You know, the drawing was just one step to the finished article. Next slide. Yeah, this is the first really large print I did. This again is from the Hanger one down in Moffat Fields, and I took a corner of it and made a cardboard dry point plate, and I printed it 4 times because I'm also really interested in the symmetry. You know, that the idea that when you pull a print, you see the exact mirror image of it as it comes off the press. And I think we all find that really exciting element of print, and I wanted to play with that with the architectural images that I was using. So I printed. The other thing about Gampi too is you can read it from both sides, which makes it perfect for installations because you can walk around it and get that whole sort of feeling of the mirror image. And you can also seam it together and back it to keep it strong. So you can create this whole sort of tessellation. You can make them as big as you like. It could go on forever. Oh, and this is my new press. I'm setting up a print residency in the inner west in Sydney. When I got here 2 years ago, again, could not get my hands on a press. There are a lot of private presses here, but I don't know anyone here. Plus, it, like I said, it rained the whole first year, so I didn't go out. I mean, it didn't just rain; it deluged. So I haven't made a print for 2 years because I couldn't get hold of a press that was open access or that was sort of the size that even a press half this size would have done, but I couldn't get access to any. So, I mean, there are a few places, but we don't have a car. They're up in the north and hard to get to, and they run big classes, and it wouldn't really have worked for me. So we always plan to buy this American French tool press, which is it only arrived a month ago. It's the bed plate is 53 inches by 99, I think. So it's a large press, and it's the biggest French tool press in the Southern Hemisphere. So it's going to be, it's a beauty.
Well, that should be your tagline on Instagram, on everything. That's such an amazing stat to know.
Yes, yes.
Can you do a shout out of what your studio name is?
It's the Jenny Robinson Print Studio. We went with name recognition at first. Not that anyone knows my name here, but and then, you know, we may change it later on. We may call it Darlington Editions if we invite people. Basically, we want to invite people from abroad, master printers, to come and teach workshops and make prints with us. So we want to sort of combine bringing in a bit of, you know, not new or fresh blood exactly, but to just introduce a different people who haven't taught here before, perhaps haven't been to Australia before. And of course, America has so many incredible printmakers, as does Europe. So really, we want to make it have an international flavor about it and create sort of a buzz in the inner west here.
So put Ariadna and myself on the list. Thank you very much. Already
on the list, top of the list, both of you, top of the list.
Well, I'm done with the talk. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Could I jump into a question for you two?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know there's going to be a few. I see some names in the chat that I recognize as well, but I want to kick us off by asking, so obviously I've got the two of you because you're prime examples for different reasons, but you also work in large scale. And I'm wondering, aside from the practical applications of working big and the challenges that can pose, both of you have kind of figured it out already. But how does the scale and the size of your work connect to your ideas and your concepts?
Ariadna, do you want to go? Because I feel like I talked a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. I think that working on a larger scale is more difficult, it's more complicated. And if you make a mistake, it's more important, more difficult to fix.
Very
expensive. Yes, so you have to think and work to be very, very careful, no, when you work. I think that it's also important to have some help, because if you are alone in the studio and you have to manage big papers, big plates, everything is more complicated. Of course, there are some tricks, no, and you can do it alone, but if you have some help, it helps a lot. And also when we have artists in the studio who are working large, they appreciate our help because we are there and we assist the artists and we help them to pick the prints. And after you have to storage the prints, no, to put them flat. So you need a space. You need to have a big studio, a big press, big tables for inking. So a big vat, no, to dip the if you have to etch the plate in the acid. So everything is more complicated, and you need a space. And you also have to see if you work with different people, no, there you have to have an order, no.
Yeah.
You have
A
to be
system in
strict.
a busy studio.
Well, I think it's not for everybody because you also need experience, no. You cannot start doing big prints, no. Previously, it's better if you practice with a smaller size, but I like to work on large scale. I have the facility, so for me it's more easy than for other people. But for me it's difficult now to move to a small, no, because I prefer to work big, and after if I just keep a piece or but
I do
well,
think
it's
that's the beauty. Sorry,
sorry.
Ariadna. I think that's the beauty of the paper we use as well. I mean, there's a question here about seaming, how to seam Gampi together, and it's quite a complex technique. I learned it from Paul Maloney in America. He spent 10 years living in Japan, and so he knows all about backing paper using traditional scroll backing techniques and stuff. And because Gampi is I mean, it's a beautiful strong paper, but when it's wet, it falls to bits basically. So you basically use wheat paste to join the two seams together, but it is complex and it is difficult. But I think what Ariadna was saying about sort of needing a big press or using a big press, the beauty of all these papers, if they're thin enough, is that you can actually print them in sections, like I did with the photopolymer plate at Alfred. You can print smaller pieces and then join them together to make. So this is 9 plates. So you print them and then you join them together. And I've done that in the past when I've had access to. I think that's the other thing about residencies too. You change your practice depending on the residency. So you go to a residency and maybe their press is old and doesn't work very well, or it's small. So you just have to, that's the thing about printmakers. They're problem solvers. They figure it out and they'll still make what they want to make, but it'll maybe take a bit longer, or it'll need a little bit of juggling and different techniques to get it to work. But that is the beauty of Japanese paper. You can make something huge.
There was also a practical application there with those photopolymer plates. Like, they only come easily and readily available in North America at a certain size.
Yes, and that was the biggest size, I think. I can't remember the size, but they were the larger plates. And I remember Audi and Joseph Shearer were up all night, because I came in the morning and all 9 of them were sitting on the table gleaming and ready to print. And I think they were up all night making them.
Jenny, you're getting a little cut off. It might come back in a second. Let's give it a second. So I'm going to move on to Ariadna. I'm thinking about your personal work more than anything, and you're doing images of like whales, right? Obviously quite large. And then you're doing things on surfboards as well, which are quite large pieces of wood. Did you start small, or did you instantly just kind of jump in? And would you ever go back small because it becomes more important for your concepts and your ideas?
Well, it was point when I changed. No, I switched to large because in the beginning, when I start learning the techniques, I work small. No, so I was more interested in the process. No, to learn the basics, the steps. But after one day, I feel that I have to move to something large, and I did these big wells. But after trying, no, after working big, it's difficult for me to reduce the scale because I like to work on large plates because you can express yourself more than if it's small.
Right.
But also depends of what are you doing. No? So if it's have to be flexible. If you have to you want to participate in a contest and the size are fixed, you have to work on this size. No, so I think that printmakers are flexible and adaptive, so we can move to
And
go
like, correct me
forward.
if I'm wrong. Like, Jenny, I think you're better now, by the way. But
Okay.
Ariadna, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see quite a few of those open calls, and you're right. They've got very certain dimensions that you have to fit. I don't even know what I'm asking right now, but they seem so restricted all the time, and they seem to be really tight and also really expensive. Has there come a point in your careers, and it's probably for both of you as well, that you see it and you want to do it, but you just don't do it because you want to aim for something bigger and maybe build a bigger body of work and apply with a body of work versus one piece for a gigantic group show abroad? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just spewing information right now.
I don't work for that. I find it really hard to make a piece for something. And I don't know, I think at this point in my career, I just actually don't care what people think, and I just do what I want to do. And I've been like that for a while, actually. I remember when I actually started working like that was probably 15 years ago when I started doing my really big prints. And I think my very first print was a big gasometer from London that I made at the Calvert Art Institute. And I just thought, who's going to want to buy this? And then I thought, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if people like it, that's fine. But if they don't like it, that's fine too. And that's actually when my work really started to take off, was when I was really true to what I wanted to do. And I just honestly didn't care what anybody else thought. And so that's kind of how I've been ever since. And
Jenny,
I'm even more so like that now.
What was the saying about big prints and red prints?
Oh, go big or go home. Oh no, wait.
No.
It was.
If you can't make it good,
make
it
it big
big.
and make it red.
And if it's still not good, make it big and red.
That's right. It's kind of like if you don't know what you're doing or you're not very good, make it big and make it red. And at the time, I was at Art Print Residence. I was making a big red print.
Yes,
remember? It was a dig. It was hilarious. Remember?
And it came out pretty well, if I recall.
Yeah. I was quite happy with it. I'm like, cool.
But it's important to do what you want to do. I think that I do the same because you have to feel it. No?
Yeah, your work is
You have
really.
to be sincere with yourself if you want to do
That's
something.
right. Yeah, I mean they're
You don't have
amazing.
to think about nobody will buy this because it's too big, but I want to do that. So
Exactly. Who
Yeah.
cares?
What are you working on now? Like, what's your next project?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I have different projects in my mind. I hope that I will continue in the future doing these projects, but I change my mind. Sometimes I don't have a priority. I have different projects and I try to develop them, and always are related with printmaking. So
Ariadna, how did you come to do the prints on surfboards? Because I know you do you do boarding, don't you? on the water.
Paddle
Because the other thing that you haven't mentioned is how close you are to the Mediterranean Sea and the beach. You're very close, 15-minute walk,
Yes.
which is lovely. But how did you come to join up with your friend here and make these prints on surfboards?
It was an idea because I was working with Mokulito and he was doing some surf on board. So it was connected because the matrix is good. So it was easy to connect this. And we imagined how to print this and after build the structure. And we are thinking on different kinds of boards. No? Some are surfboards, paddle boards, alaya boards, or different kinds of shapes. And this is how we did. I don't know if I answer your question.
Yeah. I just wondered
Yes.
how, because I know your connection with the sea and how much you paddled and stuff.
So it's something very, bueno, ¿cómo se digo? Personal, no? I'm connected to sea and paddle. I like this. It's something that I do because I like.
Well, yeah, and it sort of plays into that whole idea that you must make work that is personal to you and that you want to make. You shouldn't make work that you feel somebody else wants to see or to please a tutor or to please a gallery, really. I mean, people do that. And of course, you have to earn your bread and butter money. But I just feel like the best work that people make is the work that is what they really feel deeply that they want to make, that means something to them first and to somebody else later.
I can only assume that because you are making your own work, you're also a better educator when you have visiting artists at art print residence, because you have a more informed knowledge beyond the technical of the materials that you're working with. Have you found it to be easier to talk to crazy artists like Jenny and I when we come? Or now is it like, I wouldn't do that at all, but you go for it? What do you think?
Well, I think for me, I like to teach techniques. So sometimes my work is an excuse to get into a new technique and learn how it works. And after I can share this with other people. Right. So this is how my work is connected to my other work that is teaching. So.
I find that when I give my students assignments, like I have an etching class right now and I have a screen print class right now, and I'll give the assignment and then I'll get so excited about it, I'll want to do the assignment myself as well. And I'm always like torn because, time, you can only do so many things in one day. But I do find that it's a good way to keep up on your practice and to keep up with your knowledge of materials, because all these artists who are coming into the residencies, like all the new students who come in each year, they're bringing in obviously different ideas, hopefully, but they also discover things that I wouldn't discover if I was doing this all solo by myself. So that kind of brings me back to the idea of you both have very different residencies, but very interesting residencies that serve different purposes. Jenny, we touched a little bit on what you plan on doing with your residency, but what about your personal work at the same time?
Oh, well, that will always come first. Well, our residency isn't quite off the ground yet. We've got our first little workshop in December, and then I think in January that's when we're going to have an opening. And but I'll close the studio at least one day a week so that I can work. And I don't think we'll be inundated, to be honest, because we've got this big press, and then we've got a project room at the back where we've got 2 smaller presses, and we're going to sort of try and balance the whole year where we'll have a key holder program for maybe 2 or 3 months a year, where 5 key holders can come in and use the project room at the back to make work. And then we'll have workshops, and those artists will also be able to make work in between on the big press. So we've got a lot of sort of different, and people, I'm also going to reach out to galleries once we get set up to see if they have any artists that they would like to come for 5 days and make a body of work, or a body of works on paper like monotypes or monoprints. We too want to be non-toxic. So initially, and also this isn't a huge space, so I don't really have room to set up an etching studio at the moment. So we're going to be very much non-toxic. I think it's going to be very much more about people bringing plates here to print initially. So things like woodcuts and dry points, anything you can make on site without acid. And then eventually I'm also very interested in getting a laser cutter. Myles, that might be the time when you need to come and visit, help us set it up.
On my way.
So things like that are sort of down the road, but initially I think we're just going to see what the need is in Sydney. Like I said, a lot of people have their own presses because there is no central place to print in the inner west. I mean, we're right in the center of Sydney here. So, we're hoping that people will come and make work, a body of work, for instance, hire the press and spend a week making what they want to make.
Well, they would hire the press, and they would also be hiring you and your expertise, right? To guide them through.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to make sure they knew what they were doing before they touch my beautiful press here. So if they're not experienced printmakers, then yes, they'll have to hire me or another master printer to help them through it. Or I can get some interns from the local art college here who could come and sort of help them as well, extra pair of hands. So these are all things that we'll figure out as we go and as we see what the need is. It'll be different from art print residence because we won't have so many people coming. We won't have people staying here. We don't have a place for them to stay. There are lots of Airbnbs and stuff like that around, but that's not what we're about really. We want to create a hub here for artists and works on paper, and create a little bit of a buzz around, higher end work, really, sort of.
How many days did it take for you to gain the trust of art print residents in Ariadna to use the big press yourself, or did you ever get it?
Me? No, I was never allowed to use it without Geordie being there. I had to ring him even at lunchtime. I had to ring him up from downstairs. Geordie, I'm about to print. Can you come downstairs? But I understand it. I do understand it because
electric press. It's a very dangerous press, so it's not manual like yours, and we don't want any accidents. We don't.
No, I totally get it, and I would be the same. But it was funny, because all the other presses everyone can use. But it's a big press and it is an electric press and it's very dangerous. So I totally get it. But it was, yeah.
This is awesome.
He's winding us up, Ariadna.
I am. It's my job. Do you two have any questions for each other that you're interested in asking? If you have
I actually have lots of questions for Ariadna, but I might email them to you, Ariadna, about sort of running, about, I don't know, just basic things like inks and a lot of stuff about running an art print residence that I don't have the experience of, because I'm basically an artist. I've never done anything like this before, so it's going to be a huge learning curve for me. So any advice from Ariadna would be great.
Of course, you're welcome.
Okay, I'll get in touch with you. Maybe we can have a chat.
Yes, sure, Rita.
Okay.
I will say that one of the biggest perks for me of art print residence was that the wealth of knowledge, first of all, the availability to use a variety of papers that were just there in stock. And like you said, Ariadna, the whole suite of every hue that Charbonnel ink has was right there. And all the blacks as well. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a unique residency, isn't it? Art print residence, in that they do. I mean, no other residence has that access to colours and things like that. I mean, I'm not sure how you do it financially, but I mean, I think it's amazing that you can just come there and use every colour under the rainbow. It's fantastic.
Yes, we have everything. It's true that it's hard to maintain this, but that's why we keep this on the cartridge, because many they cost a lot of money. Each can of charbonel is very expensive. So when people doesn't take care of this, it's a waste of money and waste of time to keep it clean. And so it's a lot of work to have a residency. And well, people.
It is, because you have to be there all the time to make sure people aren't using. I mean, I've seen this kind of thing at CALAR. You know, I worked at CALAR residency for 18 years. And there's a lot of people who come and go, and incredible printmakers from all over the world. But you'd also get people who come in and go, oh yeah, I'm a printmaker, I know how to print. And then they'll put a bottle top through the press, or they'll put the press blankets the wrong way around, or they'll put ink everywhere. You know, they'll put so much oil or mineral spirits that the blankets will become completely ruined. So you can't, until you've seen people work, you cannot trust them.
Exactly. You have to be there. You have to.
You do. You have to be there and make. Yeah.
You have to. Well, you have to teach them also, because people say that they don't know everything, but sometimes it's not true.
Well, we call those people who, Jenny, you just described, we call those people painters, and they're just at the wrong residency.
That's true. But they don't want to hear that. They're printmakers, man. They know all about it. So, you know, you're like, don't put that nail through there. No, stop. So yeah, I think if you've got expensive equipment, you have to really keep an eye on it. You know, you have to be very quite strict.
Yes.
So you're going to be strict when we come there. This is good to know. This is good preparation for us.
Oh yeah, you better believe it, baby. I'm going to be strict.
It's quite the investment, but I'm excited to see what you're going to do with it. I'm excited with your logos, all the merch that you were pumping out at that last art fair you were at. It looked really hot, by the way.
Oh, thank
you.
you.
It was hot pink, wasn't it?
It was hot pink. I mean,
oh yeah,
girl power.
I want to thank you both for being in the Dwell exhibition. Like, I knew exactly who I wanted to reach out to. So I was really grateful that you responded saying you were both available. And thank you for spending your time with us this morning / night, evening for me. We're all across the world right now. Exhibition comes down in, oh my gosh, I don't even know. I think it's up for at least another month, maybe another month and a half. So there's lots of time for people to come and check it out. And just before we go, what do I need to promote? Here we go. So this was talk number 2. We have a third talk coming up on, there we go, session 3, Monday, November 6th. Art Werger and Devin Stakanis. And then our 4th section is going to be there again on November 13th with the Canadians, Erica Walker and Emma Nishimura. There'll be really great talks, so hopefully everyone can join us. Jenny,
and is that at the same time, Myles?
Sorry?
Is that at the same time of day?
It'll be 6 o'clock in the evening till 7 o'clock. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
same time, just a different date. Spread them out a little bit for the duration of the exhibition.
Lovely.
Thank you very much again, you two. Always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Thanks for inviting us, Myles.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.